We have Ms. Marjorie, CEO of Green Building Council of Australia in the audience. What is better, incentive for the owners to retrofit in a green way versus taxing the polluters?
In Australia, actually, we've got, I would say, incentives for building when you're looking at buildings, because the polluters are something that it's independent to the building owners. We've had some really good existing building policies across our cities in Australia. One was Brisbane City Council, which is a specific sustainable building policy. So if you have a green office or residential building based on Green Star or Neighbours, you get cash. Brisbane City Council has a lot of money, they can do that. Perth is another council, but used another incentive, but not based on cash. And it really is based on a policy that the Hong Kong government has just released, and that's a bonus density. In Hong Kong, it's known as GFA. So what Perth City Council said is, if you're going to green your existing building, we will give you extra space if you get a Green Star or Neighbours rating. So they used a non-financial mechanism. In Melbourne, they've got the 1200 Buildings program. In Queensland, they copied what City of Chicago did, which was Green Door. So if you green your existing building in Brisbane or Queensland, you go through a faster DA process, which is cash for the developer. And if you don't have a green building, you go through that slow door. Not sure how fast it's going to be when you get your development assessment. And the final one is City of Canberra, and all this is on the Green Building Council website under Green Guide to Government. We have all the policies in Australia. In Canberra, they have a tune-up program. So if you tune up your existing building, you get access to incentives and faster planning in Canberra. So many of our cities in Australia work under the Council of Capital City Lord Mayors, and they all learn from each other on how they can use incentives to green up. And I think you can show in Canberra we have a very high rate of green buildings for new and existing, and I really think it's coming from our city leadership.
This isn't so much a question, it's a comment, though I'm very pleased to see, to hear what's being done in Hong Kong, and to particularly to hear about the way you're bringing energy supply together with energy efficiency and demand in Sydney. It's really interesting, and greening the supply at the same time. What I wanted to say is that in London, we use our planning system, which is very strong, to require all new buildings to be it's really bringing in the developers to maximize carbon reductions with us and saying, number one, you must build sustainably, sustainable design and construction, and that's to adapt the building for its lifetime. So it's looking at passive orientation, recycled materials, green roofs, all that. And then number two, you must put in the infrastructure for decentralized energy, and if there's something nearby, then connect to it, because we've got to get the pipes in for combined heat, power and cooling. And then three, whatever quantum of energy is left, you must meet with, we've got to put in 20% reduction in CO2 from renewables. We've had a lot of issues about that because we wanted it to be on site to open up a market for renewables, which of course you do with planning regulations. But we've now decided that it doesn't always have to be on site. But those three together, and so you're looking at thermal and electrical balance, but those three together are making sure that we get much, much greener buildings. We also, in return for higher density, close to public transport, we give higher density next to public transport, but we also require, at the same time, some sort of planning obligations or contribution towards stations, towards bus stations, towards street layouts. So we're incentivizing density, but at the same time we're getting the amenities with it. But it's showing what the power of regulation is, and our business community likes it because they have said to us, and I've said it here before, they like it loud, long and legal. And they want certainty, they want clarity, they want it long term, and they want it regulatory and legal. Why? Because it gives a level playing field.
For a conference like this, apart from exchanging ideas, is to impress on us the sense of urgency to try and speed up on cutting down the emissions, etc. While you have this on one hand, the other hand is a government organization like Housing Authority does have a lot of process that you need to go through in order to actually make something work. How do you actually get it done?
How? Well, actually, we have to do a lot of experiments and trials before we can do that. Yes, that is the way to go. So we have to do some piloting, experimenting, and see whether it works well, and then we apply it across the board. And we do it holistically. First, we can enhance the specifications and the contracts, and then we have to motivate the supply chain down the line, our contractors, subcontractors, suppliers. And for us, we're registered to ISO 14000, and we want the supply chain to do that, to introduce environmental friendliness in their process they deliver, be it construction or manufacturing in their factories. And then we introduce R&D training promotion, both to our colleagues, to the supply chain, and to the tenants, the recipients at the end. So we do it holistically across the board. This is how we can get things done. And bearing in mind, we have to get the housing authority's approval. So how we get the approval? We show them the results and the benefits. And whether if it costs a little bit more in capital cost, is it money worth spending? And so this is how we get things done. And probably we're one of the most progressive public developers, and hopefully we can drive the entire industry to work with us.
And the experience in the city of Sydney?
Look, I think in terms of doing it, I mean, we're trying to lead by example. That's one way, and I talked about the three approaches we have around energy efficiency, around tri-generation, and around renewables. I think with, Romilly's comment about the cities and trying to facilitate green development, Sydney is slightly unique in that a lot of the development space, the easy developable space, has been already used up. And so we're taking more of a strategic sites approach. So we actually work with the developer to try and aggregate maybe more difficult sites that are in the city and to regenerate those, and through that process get a more sustainable building and a more sustainable development. And there's a couple of examples of that, and I suppose we're working through that over the coming years to shorten those lead times for development, to give that surety and to allow those more sustainable outcomes to be achieved in the city.
Question from the floor from one of our legislators.
Thank you, George. Sophie Leung. I'm here to learn, actually. But anyway, I think, I hear a lot today, and I wish I could stay a bit longer, but there's other commitments. I just would like to raise one question, because I do believe that there's been, in order to get a whole city or a whole, to achieve what we wanted to do, the major part of it is the mentality of the people, like some says, lifestyle. And I think it's an overall long-term education. But further than that, I think there must be some coupled in with some possible legislature to help coach that change in style. And I just wonder, maybe one area is waste management, but we have not really, maybe it's been touched in other workshops. I just wonder, there's so many talents on the floor. Do you have anything to share on, say, for example, waste management because this is one area that really touches the lives of every citizen. And I believe that we, the Housing Authority here in Hong Kong, can benefit a lot from what you can tell us, what you can share with us. Because like what Ada says, we do produce a lot of low-income housing. And if we can change from there, there's already a big change in concept of people. So I just wonder if there's any talent on the floor to tell us a bit about that one.
Before any response, perhaps just to put it in context for those people coming from overseas, is that in Hong Kong we have been having a discussion about where to get the next landfill site, which is always a difficult decision for any city.
I suppose the Sydney example there is that Sydney is also constrained in terms of landfill sites, and by 2016 there'll be only one solution left for Sydney-siders, and that will be taking their waste, putting it on a railway about 200 kilometres away and going into a bioreactor. Complemented by that is there's a very high landfill levy, and that continues to rise every year. And that's really a market mechanism to allow other solutions to become viable. So that landfill levy is in the order of 200 Australian dollars a tonne, and it's going up every year. And so what the city's trying to do is one of our master plans was looking at new technology about how we convert that waste that we have from the city, obviously taking off all the high valuable renewable recyclables first, and what's remaining, converting that into some sort of synthetic gas that we can then use in the trigeneration plants to generate the energy for the city. So trying to close that loop and actually converting that waste into a resource. I think it was mentioned a couple of times today. Obviously recycling is vitally important, reuse whenever you can. What's left, then we're going to be looking at turning that into some sort of gas.